The officer was teaching a woman how to shoot. The woman was aiming, but she found her husband among the prisoners. She was so frightened that she put down her gun. The officer asked her what was wrong. The woman replied that she was afraid that the gun would go off. The officer picked up the gun and was going to demonstrate the woman's marksmanship. He chose one of the prisoners to compete with him in a shooting contest. The woman's husband was chosen. If he lost, he would be executed. The officer started first and hit the bottle. When it was the man's turn, he was a little nervous, but he hit the target. Then came the officer's second shot. It was still a solid hit, but this time, the man missed. His father was already crying his eyes out. He thought that his son was going to die. However, a man in the group stepped forward. He wanted to compete with the officer as well. The officer knew that Arthur was the best sniper in the USSR. He was not going to be able to beat him easily, but the officer wanted to win the woman's heart. So he asked someone to place the target further up the hill. Then he picked up the gun with the scope and hit the target easily. When it was Arthur's turn, he was given an ordinary gun. Arthur made a few adjustments. He shot immediately and the bottle shattered. The woman was thrilled. The victory was over. The officer was furious and knew that he had lost. So he then stopped the match prematurely. The woman's husband was safe, but the woman knew that this was not a permanent solution. She had to save her husband. The next day, there was an explosion in the camp. The scene was very chaotic. It turned out that the woman had brought a dozen men to rescue her husband. While the two sides were fighting, the man and Arthur ran into the woods. They stumbled across a drawbridge. When the Germans arrived with their hounds, the woman drove them away. They then arrived at an old castle. The husband's father was waiting. They embraced and cried, but the husband had lost his love because of having a good shot. The woman fell in love with Arthur, but Arthur saw what the woman was thinking. He finally chose to leave. However, as soon as the men had left, the German commander sent his men to surround the castle, and everyone was captured. But Arthur saw this coming. He stayed in the shadows. When the time was right, he started killing German soldiers with his sniper rifle. Other soldiers drove their cars to get backup. Arthur wouldn't give them a chance. He shot the driver dead. The officer panicked. He watched as his men went down one by one, but he couldn't find Arthur. This story tells us do not underestimate any sniper.